Hey everybody, in today's video we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to go old school and to show you my opinion about how maybe dynamic lighting and fog of war and line of sight is a little overused in virtual tabletop tools. We're going to go and we're going to show it at the table. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain something about narrative and reveal and about a little bit of showmanship that we have at the table that I think is pretty easy to understand when we're using minis and physical props. It can really be lost on DMs who have maybe never played in a game and been on the player's side using a virtual tabletop tool like Roll20 or Foundry, where maybe we can make some really easy mistakes. But first, to show that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up Blender and I'm going to make a scene. I take my OpenForge tiles and I quickly create a hallway with a couple of corners in it, because that's going to simulate some of the players being able to see some things and other players not being able to see other things. So I create my scene, and in the center of that scene I'm going to go and grab a 3D model that I bought online. I didn't build this, and in the comments below I'll show links, but I light the scene, I make that green flame, and then I do a couple of renders with the ray tracer. Right, so I do a top-down view, and then I'm also going to do a couple of different isometric views so that I can cut out the columns and show the stuff behind the columns, that sort of thing. So to explain the problem, let me set up the scene. The players have all descended down into this dungeon. They know that there's something that really affects the story down here. It's maybe a big conclusion, and they're going to have a big fight. They know this. This has been telegraphed by the GM. So when they come down here and they see the monster, they know that it has major story implications, and they're going to get ready for a good fight. So here we've got a left-right setup. On the left, I have my wizard character, and on the right is maybe one of these pirates that's accompanying them. That's another one of the PCs. So the wizard character sneaks forward and starts seeing an eerie green light, the GM narrates. But the pirate in the back, can't really see that. They're logged into VTT, and they have a line of sight that's specific to their token. So the wizard sneaks forward and sees, turn right and then turn left down that hallway, and there's a flickering green flame light. Probably something real spooky and eldritch going on. Oh, okay. So they sneak forward. Again, we're not in initiative yet. And they turn the corner, can see movement and see a monster. And the second they turn that corner, maybe something big is going to get revealed. But again, the pirate that's in the back, maybe watching the rear of the party, isn't seeing that. They're not having that experience. Maybe they're hearing it from the GM, but they're just going to have to imagine it because everybody else maybe is having fun in the fun part of the dungeon, and they're not. So the wizard turns the corner, and the line of sight reveals there's a statue of the evil god that's being worshipped, and the pirate in the back goes, oh, okay, except how far ahead did the wizard get? I can't even see that. How many rounds of combat is it going to take for me to do something? When I start attacking, should I use my bonus action? Or am I going to need to double move? How far is it? Turns out they are going to have to double move. So here's the problem. Well, a whole bunch of the rest of the party is going to, every time you do this, not have as much fun as the person who's in the front if they can't see what's going on. And this is not the way that D&D used to work. To explain that, let me show you what a reveal would look like in a physical tabletop. Next round, the warrior decides to turn the corner. Everybody else is still back here. And I say, everybody stop moving your characters because I'm going to put out some more terrain. And then I do a reveal. I do a dramatic reveal, and I say, the warrior turns around the corner, and they see in this dark room, regardless of whether or not you have dark vision, 2 open doors. And beyond those doors, you see a grisly scene. The room is a mausoleum, perhaps, but also some sort of ritual sacrifice chamber with some sort of magic circle surrounded by fallen angels with their wings bloody stumps, and they are worshiping before a horrible altar to some evil demon holding a brazier of green flame. Everyone roll initiative. Now that's fun. That's fun for everybody at the table, not just the player for this warrior here. So I think you see the problem. My character here has no line of sight to the cool part of the game. If they were sitting at a normal table, they would be enjoying watching everybody else having fun, waiting for their turn to come up to run into that adventure and fight that scary monster. But given the way that the virtual tabletop tools work, with this strict line of sight, which is pretty cool and it can create some really neat effects, the problem is that you bring it into the line of sight for a single character, and they're going to miss out on a lot of the game. And it might take them several rounds even to navigate anything that causes difficult terrain to get over to whatever the fun stuff is that's going on. They could be spending multiple minutes, and if you got a lot of stuff on the screen, it could take a long time for the initiative to come around. And if it takes 2 rounds for them to get to that big reveal where they can actually see the stuff and interact with it, yeah, that's more realistic, but is it more fun? Well, I can tell you from my experience as a player, it's not. And this happens more often than you'd like, especially in dungeons where you're stacking up on a door and you burst through the door, but there's always people who don't quite get through it before the initiative and the fight starts, and they're left out of part of the game. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through building all of this out in an isometric mode, but laying out the walls, making some decisions, and using some techniques that I do in Foundry VTT to compensate for the problems of the players that are in the back of the party. So let me go and pull open a version of this that's an isometric. So I'm going to open up my settings here, configure. And you can see that I have global illumination. Let's turn that off. And I'm going to turn the darkness level down. So there's no global illumination, but there's also no lights. And token vision's on and fog exploration is on. I'm going to save that. I'm going to go to the line of sight here. And I've got no lights. And I've got no walls thus far. So I'm going to go and control click and just do the simplest kind of outline of the walls here. And this goes pretty quick. Let me go and I'm going to take invisible walls. And I like taking the corners here. Sometimes you'll make this mistake where you set up an invisible wall like that. And then you use an actual wall for here, thinking that, well, that's a corner too. That'll probably help. And the reality is that it doesn't. But I'll show the example first. So here I go and I click the pirate in the back, and they can't see anything because there's no lights in the room. So I go and create a white light there that kind of goes to the edge. I'll create a white light here that goes to the edge. And I'll create a light here. Now it doesn't have to be green because the green is kind of baked into the... But what I will do is I'll open it up and I'll make it a torch so that it flickers a little bit. So it's flickering in white, but since the background is green, it's just multiplying, and so that it stays green, and that effect is there. So now the pirate, when I click on them, they can't see. They round the corner, and there's one extra line I got to draw in, which is, and then an ethereal wall, like that. And that's just to represent the corner. So now I can't see around the corner. Let me clear the fog of war to show that. So he can't see around that corner. He also can't see up that wall very well because there's no light. And he gets there. So I might actually go and create a light right here just to represent that. So yeah, so now he can go, he can see this. He gets around this corner and he sees there. So the first thing I want to do is I really want to question whether or not this no global illumination thing is doing anything for me. There's dark lights. The light is baked into the background, so I'm not revealing like a flat mat. So let me go and I'm going to go into the config here. And I'm going to turn on global illumination. And I'm going to turn on a level of darkness. Now when I do that, every single spot here gets some amount of light, but the dark areas can stay dark. So I can go and take that light out, right? And now there are dark areas of the map that are far away from the lights, but the torch looks more torch-like, which is nice. The next thing you'll notice is that around here, you got some problems, right? It looks weird. I can't tell if that's a wall. I can't tell what's going on. So let me go and show you how I actually do this when I run game. So when I do this, I don't actually put walls there. I put invisible walls there. And the reason I do this is because just like in the virtual tabletop, or pardon me, just like in the physical tabletop, anything in the diorama, right? And we went through the diorama dungeon design in a previous episode. But anything that's on the open side of the diorama, I just want to have open. This nice distance of wall stops this wall from this nice distance of wall here stops this wall from interfering. But if I just put up some more invisible walls here, and I think I'm going to replace this one, so I know which side the player is coming from. I'm going to set up a couple more invisible walls right here and here in blue. And now when the player rounds the corner, they're going to get a full sense of what that room is about. They can see every tactical combat square of that room. And that's really important because players get lost really easily. So maybe even if it doesn't really make sense for them to see that square, I'm going to let the players see a little bit more than they should, just so they get their bearings and understand everything. So a couple of things. The problem is I'm not always going to be able to be Johnny up here. Sometimes I'm going to be back here not understanding what's going on. So there's two approaches that you're going to want to attempt. All right, so on the left here, I have the GM's view, and on the right, I've got the player that represents this pirate. So the problem is, if I clear the line of, the fog of war and set it back, even if my wizard character has proceeded into this fun part of the dungeon, my pirate can't see it, just as I've shown a couple times before. But what I can do is I can just say, for this scene, I want every player to see it more like it's in a physical table. So the first thing you can use is the observer setting. So I can go into this character's actual character sheet. So that's Cal. And when I right click on that character sheet, there's a configure permissions button. I set it for the window on the right is the AR window. So I set it to observer, and going and closing a couple things again. When this character is not selected, I'm able to see through every token that this character is able to see. So here on the right, even though I represent this character here, so I represent this character, but when I unselect him, I can also see through this character. So even though that's not the character that I own, when I move that character around, I'm going to be able to see from their perspective, which is pretty cool. And it even works with the wall popping of the isometric plugin, which is great. So that's the first approach, which is just to use observer mode for what it's meant for, to let one player see through another player's eyes, which is kind of what we're simulating in our theater of the mind. So you might as well show the artwork anyways. The next thing that you can do, if you don't like that, because sometimes that makes it difficult if I gotta have something checked, something unchecked, or which players can I see. The reveal might happen on one versus the other, and I might not want that up all the time. So the other thing you can do is, instead of using that observer mode, which I'm now going to turn off, so I'm going to take that player and I'm going to turn off observer for the various characters. So that doesn't work anymore. The other thing you can do is you can create a special player token and give it an icon that makes it clear that it's not an actual character. So what I can do is I have this token here called Party Vision that just has an eye logo. I right click on it and I configure its permissions, and you can see that all players have it as the observer. So when I drop down the Party Vision, as long as you don't have your character selected, here this Party Vision kind of becomes like a little, almost like a familiar or something. And that Party Vision token is going to see on behalf of the other players. So if I want to put it someplace and let the players see their friend run in here, but maybe they can't see what happens to their friend afterwards, that would be a great use of the Party Vision. Right, so here, Party Vision, they can see maybe from the start of the reveal, but they can't follow their friends if they decide to go deeper into the dungeon, which might be a nice thing. All right, so I hope that was quick, and I hope that was demonstrative of one of the challenges I've been having with VTT. And I think you should really think about it, especially if you have a lot of these scenarios where, if I was playing at a normal gaming table, I'd be able to see everything. And I could just use, good role playing and not use metagame knowledge of what I'm not really able to see in my decisions. It's fun, but it's not a video game. And it's okay to let your players see things that their characters can't see. And I think they're still going to have fun. And I think they might have more fun because now they get to actually interact or react to what's going on in the game, even when it's not their turn, or even when they get left behind a little bit and are playing a core function in the strategy, like keeping the rear safe and making sure they don't get attacked from both sides. So I hope that was fun. Hope you learned something. I hope it made you think about some of your level design. And I hope you saw that the isometric version of this looks pretty darn good. All right, cheers.